lonesome road set my soul on fire. Thinking back before I left, the passions I desire. Can you help me anymore?
Boy, I always hate turning that song off, Jorma. It's such a good song.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. Whoever wrote that, man.
Mark of genius.
Genius.
I'd like to meet that man sometime.
Great music for our podcast. Roads and roads and a song to go with it. Well, we want to welcome our podcast listeners out there in podcast world. And glad to be with you today for season number 2, episode number Trace.
Number Trace.
Number 3.
Wow.
Number 3. And,
where'd the time go?
The time goes, but we are so enjoying ourselves, and we got a lot of great things to talk about today. But we have to start the show with a couple corrections, and I must say, I'm glad to say that we can offer these corrections because it means people have been listening intently to what we are saying.
Well, I can't believe that we made a mistake in the first place.
I know, but you know what? Whenever you make one, you know what I'm saying. It's good to just say you did.
When wrong, promptly admitted it.
There's never a wrong time to be right. You know what I'm saying? But anyhow, one of our esteemed listeners pointed out to me that I had mentioned that the Beatles played at Madison Square Garden when we were talking about how the sound systems used to be,
right.
The public address system. Indeed, it was Shea Stadium.
Oh.
And Hurl knew that. I was just having a Hurl-timers moment, and I just confused things, But indeed, it was Shea Stadium. The Beatles did not play Madison Square Garden.
Oh, boy.
And then you and I were talking about the Ballad of You and Me and Pooneil.
Yes.
And you said to me, what record was on? I said, Crown of Creation. And you agreed. And it was a mistake again on our part. And when we make a mistake, Jorma, we have
always,
to admit
always.
It. But the reason why, Jorma, is because the Ballad of You and Me and Pooneil is on After Bathing at Baxter's, the great third album of the Jefferson Airplane.
Right, we should have.
You and me will be talking about.
That's right. I should have realized that because of the long feedback intro.
But the one we were talking about, the house on Pooneil Corner, that's the one that's on Crown of Creation.
Correctamundo.
Yes. So anyhow, before we jump into the show, what's with this all Pooneil stuff? Can you explain to me how Pooneil came into this whole thing?
Cantor just had an obsession with Winnie the Pooh for some reason or other. I said, we'll never know because we can't ask him. And Fred Neil, of course, was another one of his artistic obsessions. And yeah.
So a little combination. Is that where it came from?
Who knows? It was, it was the circuitous mind of Mr. Paul Cantor. May he rest in peace.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good, Jorma. I'm glad to hear about that. Now, another thing before we get deep into the next record we're going to talk about, I got a real nice email from one of your old drummers, Sammy Piazza, and he wrote to say that he's been watching all our podcasts. Hey, so let's say hi to him out there. Hey, Sammy.
Hey, Sammy.
But anyhow,
keep the faith, brother.
He and I have had a couple email communications, and he had a couple questions. And I thought they were good questions, so I thought I would ask them to you. Number one, did any of the Hot Tuna records hit gold status like the same thing that would happen to the Jefferson Airplane records?
Probably, that's a good question. And the answer is over the years they did. But, no, I don't think so at the time.
Okay.
If you stay in the game long enough, you can sell a lot of records.
Sure. I think with the Airplane, you guys sold them like real.
Right. That was like a pop phenomenon.
Right.
Yeah.
But you know what? It would be something, and maybe one of our people out there will look at the statistics. But I would think that Burgers maybe at this point is a gold record.
That could be. I'm trying to think.
Real close to it. We will check with our statistician and report back.
Exactly. We need facts on this. We need facts.
So Sammy, we'll get back with you on that. He wondered, Jorma, who was responsible for adding the strings on Phosphorescent Rat album?
Mallory Earl, and we also did the strings. Tom Salisbury did the arrangements of that. Strings and horns also on Qua. I'd have to look this up, but there's a couple records that Mallory got a local strings guy, Tom Salisbury. who I looked up a couple months ago, and as a couple months ago, he was still in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Great, really cool arrangements. I mean, he really challenged channeled what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like on the solo stuff, what I was doing with my guitar, and on the band stuff, what the band was doing. Cool stuff. Thanks, Tom.
Jorma, what do you think about that idea when it was proposed to you, as far as kind of adding strings to a rock record like that?
I mean, because I can occasionally be an asshole.
What?
I was probably repulsed by the idea. Strings, we don't need those stinking strings.
Yes. Well, that's why I kind of wondered.
I know. I don't think I had the vision. But the good news is that my lack of vision didn't keep them from happening, because now, of course, I love them.
Yes, and it sounds so great on the record as well.
Yeah.
Another question from Sammy. Do you have a favorite Hot Tuna record? And if so, why?
Wow. I think the simple answer on that is no. And I'm going to qualify that in a second.
Yep.
It's no, and the reason is because each Hot Tuna record really reflected a different period in my writing. And so I wouldn't really compare them, because they were different eras in the way I was looking at things back then. I think if I had to say, if somebody says, come on, pick one, Jorm, I would probably pick the first one, the Live at New Orleans House, simply because it was the first one.
Yes. Well, it is kind of an essential Hot Tuna record. And a lot
Right.
of times when people would come to the Fur Peace Ranch Company store when we had the ranch open, they'd say, I'm just getting, Hot Tuna stuff. What would you recommend for a first record? And a lot of times I'd recommend that because of getting the acoustic side of you. Plus,
Right.
so many of those songs are still a part of your curriculum today. And one of our statisticians, Jorma, in the box office up there, has come down and put a little note in front.
And what
of
does
you.
this note say?
This note, Jorma, is some very good information.
Your
for
eyes
you,
are good,
my friend.
because even with my glasses, it's too far away for me to read.
What we have here is the facts, Jorma, that 3 of your records have become gold certified by the Recording Industry of America. And that would be that first Hot Tuna album you were talking about, the second one, First Pull Up, Then Down, and Burgers. So,
Wow.
3 gold records.
Damn.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. We thank our people for pulling that information in for us.
We stand corrected. We sit corrected.
Yes. All right, now I'm going to go back to Sammy's questions again, and talking about your guitars, the acoustics and the electrics. Over the years, have you had a favorite electric guitar and a favorite acoustic guitar that you played?
I think my favorite acoustic guitar would probably, especially back in the day, would be my old J50, which is the acoustic guitar that you hear on the first acoustic Hot Tuna record, of course. But also when third week in the Chelsea, it's
Embryonic Journeys with that guitar.
Embryonic
too.
Journeys,
Yes.
that guitar, etc. But time marches on, and I think that I'm really fortunate because I'm still playing a J50-esque guitar, and that's my David Flamand guitar, which captures that feeling, that zeitgeist that that guitar gave me. And I have to say, because I was messing with my old J50 the other day, it was a great guitar in its time. I think it needs some work now. It's a great guitar in my memory and historically speaking, but as of this moment, the Flamand's J35s, not J50, J35s, I think have superseded it in magnificence.
Well, like anything, it needs a tune-up after some years because that J50 has
I think it needs a little TLC.
taken care of you well.
Yeah, it needs some TLC.
Yeah, when you were playing it the other day, I was in here with you. It sounded just great.
It's a great sounding guitar.
It has a beautiful, beautiful.
It has some
sound to
playability issues right now that
yeah.
it needs somebody better than I to address.
Yeah, and that's always important as well. How about as far as electric guitar, Jorma?
So, yeah. I guess the guitar that I really came of age with playing would have been that Gibson ES-345 stereo that I played with the airplane pretty much. I think a Strat cropped up every now and then, but the ES-345, that's really would be the one that I cut my teeth on. And I got to say, because I'm fortunate enough to have a really good one that the Gibson folks in the custom shop down there in Tennessee, when we got that Lifetime Achievement Award, the airplane got the Lifetime Achievement Award, they recreated my '64 ES-345, and that's a killer guitar. And that's some guitars come and go.
Yeah.
That one came. It's not going to go.
It's staying. Yeah.
It's not
Did
going.
you pull that out for any Hot Tuna stuff or?
Yeah, that's the guitar that I use.
Okay. All right.
Pretty much.
All right.
Well, and we could geek out about the guitar stuff, but this is not the moment for that. We'll do that another time.
We'll do another time.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, anyhow, we thank Sammy for those
Yeah,
questions
thanks, Sammy.
there, and if you ever have any questions and you want us to address them in the podcast, feel free to send them to me, John, JOHN @furpeaceranch.com, and we'll try to get to it for you. Now, again, one of our friends has asked me to put this question to you. Why, when the Jefferson Airplane did the 1989 reunion LP and tour, was Spencer Dryden not a part of that?
So I guess to really get the answers to that, we would have to talk to Paul and Grace that were sort of like really instrumental in ramrodding that whole thing. But I think the simple thing is, there's a couple reasons for that. Spencer had really, I'm not even sure he was really actively drumming at that point. And the band was really looking for more of a powerhouse kind of thing. Spencer, as I've said before in our conversations here, was arguably the most creative drummer on some levels that the band ever had, but he was not a powerhouse guy. And I think Paul and Grace were looking for heavy hitters, and
All right.
Kenny Aronoff.
Yeah, and of course he did well.
He's a heavy hitter,
well.
and he's a great percussionist on many levels, but in the rock context, he's a heavy hitter.
For sure. Well, we are going to jump in today to talking about another Jefferson Airplane record. Today we'll be talking about the third Jefferson Airplane record, After Bathing at Baxter's, which came out on November 27th of 1967. Almost 60 years ago, 59 years ago.
Good Lord.
This was an RCA release, both in stereo and mono. They
Whoa.
released in both formats that record. And
I believe I have both in my collection.
Good, good. Well, this record, not only for the Jefferson Airplane, opened up new doors and sent in another direction. Music in general was going in another direction at this time. 1967 being such a pivotal year.
Right.
And, people commenting about this record, Jorma, as I've read reviews and in the past looking at, the thing that came out was this was the most experimental and the least commercial Jefferson Airplane record.
Yeah, I get that. I think, again, it's too bad that we don't have the band's architects here.
We have the major architect, Jorma. We have the major.
I was a
one guy.
contributor, but the guys are really driving the bus. And Jack would probably be able to weigh on this too. But anyway, Sgt. Pepper's was so influential to, I think, Paul and Marty on so many levels. And I think one of the ways that it kind of bled over into our little universe was in a moderately conceptual way to look at an album, I think. And maybe we're the only ones that can see the concepts that we're dealing with there. But yeah, I mean, Baxter's was not designed was not designed to have a hit to pick off it, even though I'm sure RCA would have loved that to have happened.
Sure.
And so it's just a bunch of great songs that made up that album. I mean, there's some weird amusical stuff on it, and there's musical songs, et cetera, et cetera. So So yeah, the success of Pillow, I think, freed us to eschew possibilities of financial success.
Opened up all kinds of things.
Yeah, it opened up a lot
Well,
of stuff.
1967 begins with Jefferson Airplane's Surrealistic Pillow getting released, which is a gigantic record. And as we talked about in one of our earlier podcasts in season number 1, you know, that record has achieved so much status and cred.
It was on the charts for 2 years.
For a long time. It's recognized by the Academy of Music, Smithsonian, as one of the greatest records, and all the great stuff that and also having you know, the 2 biggest songs, at least arguably and commercially, one Somebody to Love and White Rabbit on there. So it was a very radio friendly record as well.
It was.
Most of the tracks being kind of produced and geared toward radio play. And then all of a sudden at the end of the year, in November of '67, you have After Bathing at Baxter's, which is a completely different animal, completely different thing. And, you know, while radio-friendly songs were like in the Surrealistic Pillow, a lot of the songs, because of the length and subject matter and stuff, like you said, were not commercially accepted. But for a lot of people out there, that was some of the best Jefferson Airplane work. And a very cool thing happening at the same time is FM radio starts to happen.
I was just about to mention that, but yeah, absolutely. So when you use the term radio friendly, up until that time, give or take a month or a year or whatever, we're talking about AM radio play.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, it was FM radio play, and that was a whole different ball of wax because, remember, they also, I mean, we just, you know, when you turn on your car radio, it's in stereo. You know, but in those days, multiplex FM radio was like, whoa. I remember we used to have the store at the Japan Center in San Francisco, Tokyo Electronics, and they had all these cool little gadgets from Japan at the time. And so I got an you know, an AM FM radio. It was really cool. And then they offered a second part to that radio that turned it into a multiplex stereo thing. And KMPX, all the San Francisco stations were broadcasting in stereo. It was like, whoa.
Yes, a big thing.
Yeah, and since they played our records, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
I can hear a Jefferson Airplane record in stereo.
Right. And the cool thing with the FM is they played those songs that were not considered. They almost like loved to play those songs that would not be played on an AM radio because of the length, the subject matter, etc.
You know, we could talk about, you know, Big Daddy Tom Donahue and Dusty Street, my old pal, may she rest in peace, and all the great radio stuff we were part of back then. Sly Stone.
Yep. So much changed in that time in 1967, from when the record came out to use Surrealistic Pillow, and by the end of the year. And I also wanted to just comment that 1967 was just like a big year for so many things, and music-wise, it's interesting to see that, you know, they talk about the Jefferson Airplane, and under the genre of the music, I noticed they put psychedelic acid rock.
Whoa!
And that seems like a first as well. And the psychedelic music was always caught my ear as a youth. And there were certain aspects about the improvisation, the changing tempos, the feeling. There were so many things about it. But when you were coined with this psychedelic rock, or acid rock as it was, what was your take on all that?
So, I mean, when you start bringing categories into the conversation, you know, opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, you know. But when you think about Jefferson Airplane as a psychedelic band, you know, there were bands and they know who they are, who you know, tripped and played music, but that certainly wasn't me. I mean, you know, hey, listen, I came of age in the '60s, so I've dropped acid, obviously. But I always watched my hands when I played. So when your hands turn into a pile of snakes, that for me, that doesn't really make for a great performance. I remember we were doing a show. I think the Allman Brothers might have been on. I forget. Charles Otis was there, so I don't know. Anyway, I've been dosed for a couple of shows. Horrible. horrible. But we don't need to go there. Anyway, where were we?
Snakes.
Snakes. Yeah. Snakes on a plane. No, that's another thing.
That's another thing.
I completely spaced out.
No, I get it.
How did we start? How did we start?
Because you're playing when the snakes took over your hands.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think there's something meatier than that, other than
The
getting
psychedelic of the
the nomenclature, yeah.
Yes.
So it's become a genre, and I get it. I get it now, and I mean, it's like, when people talk about psychedelic music, probably the first locale they think of is San Francisco. Although San Francisco was not the only music scene where.
Yes, but I agree with you. A lot of it does come out of psychedelic '60s, San Francisco.
Oh, no, you're right.
And speaking about 1967, just as the airplane was changing, my feelings are that there was so much going on, and I wondered if this also fell into how you guys were playing. And let me say a few things first to get
fire away.
First off, speaking of 1967, these are some of the incredible albums that come out in this year. You have The Doors releasing their first album. You have Moby Grape releasing their first album. You have Hendrix releasing Axis and Are You Experienced on the same year, 67. You have Pink Floyd, Piper at the Gates, Mothers of Invention, Absolutely Free, Cream's Disraeli Gears, Country Joe, I Feel Like I'm Fixin' to Die. You mentioned the Sgt. Pepper, which is a big one for 1967, as well as the Satanic Request by the Rolling Stones, which was really their answer to Sgt. Pepper's as well, with the concept idea. Now, so you have all that great music coming out. In 1967, some of the cultural events that are happening. You have Rolling Stone magazine coming on the scene, and apparently they were big fans of the Jefferson Airplane, and especially this record promoting it as well. You have the Summer of Love, and when we talk about this record, After Bathing at Baxter's, that had a lot of influence in Paul's writing, that these things happen. Yep. You have the Monterey Pop Festival.
Yep.
And that certainly opened your guys. I was reading something, and they were talking about the band members, and after seeing Hendrix play and some of the stuff that day, that it really had an influence on where you guys were going.
Yep.
And you have the anti-war movement, the March on the Pentagon, all that stuff happening at that time. You have Muhammad Ali failing to not going on the draft and paying the price for his conscience objection. So there were just so many things happening, and I guess my question to you, Jorma, is with so many things culturally happening at the same time, did this all come into the music as well?
Yeah, I mean, of course it couldn't help but do that. And, I've been doing some interviews with different people lately, and they were talking about, not in the same incisive, sensitive detail that you're doing, but in some respects, some of the same kind of stuff. And when you're living in your time, whatever that time is, you just kind of, you might be amazed by something, but you just kind of take it for granted because, wherever you are, go, there you are, and so we're just like in the thick of all this kind of stuff. I think looking back at it in some respects, it's more of a whoa moment, Right.
Well, you're 27 years old at this point. In 1967.
Right.
And I'm sure you're aware of all this stuff happening because, the airplane really culturally was like, one of the harbingers and
right.
So many, especially the American audience looking up to you guys as, the greatest American rock and roll band. It's been thrown around, of course. But, the anti-war thing all of a sudden creeps into a little bit of the writing, which we'll talk about in After Bathing.
And I'll hang on to that thought just for a second, and keep in mind, most of us, both Jack and I were ordered to report to the draft board, and we both, were deemed 4F for a lot of reasons, but I remember. I think it was in Oakland when I got my 4F designation, and the Sarge behind the desk said, "You'll never be able to get another government job." And I remember saying at the time, "Promise," and I've never had to get one, so it was okay, because I'd had government jobs before that. Yeah, it was a tumultuous time on a lot of levels, and you had to make decisions about what it was that was important to you in your life. A lot of my friends, went into the service and served honorably, and some didn't come back, some did, and it just wasn't my path.
Right. What does that 4F mean, just so you would explain that?
That means that you're utterly unfit for military service.
Uh-huh. I wonder if they still give that. Obviously not. Look at our state of our politics. Obviously not.
No, I don't think that's well, we don't have a draft now, so.
Yeah, so I guess it's a mute thing. Well, so we have the music, like exploring all this great stuff.
Yeah, all
happening.
kinds of stuff is going on.
We have culturally all this kind of stuff
Absolutely.
happening. And we also have on a technical thing, all of a sudden amps and the recording process, all of that stuff growing, and all of this meeting at that same year in 1967. Tell us how that 1967 opened up for you as far as the guitar effects and amplification and that kind of stuff.
I wasn't really using a lot of effects back then because a lot of effects didn't really exist. I mean, obviously when things popped up, we'd try them, like the Gibson Maestro fuzz tone. I used that on some Airplane records as an effect. And then they also made a thing called a ring modulator. This is one of the most forgettable effects of all times. A lot of stuff was happening. Some of it played out better than others, musically speaking. And, think about what the kids of all ages take for granted with effects today. The sky's the limit. Now, interestingly enough, I'm not doing a lot of electric gigs these days, but every now and then one comes up. And those aren't sounds that I'm looking for anymore. But, back in the day, when I heard... Clapton with his wah-wah pedal, that was extremely influential to me, and it's really why I got one, and we all find our way with it. So like with the Airplane, I was playing that Gibson ES345 stereo guitar, and I had the fuzz tone on the neck pickup and the wah on the bridge, and that obviously influenced a lot of the way that I approach solos and stuff like that. We got sidetracked there a little bit, yeah.
No, good. That's good. Interesting enough, I guess in 1967, you guys were Grammy nominated for one of the best new groups, which is, I guess you lost to Bobby Gentry.
That's funny because I was utterly unaware of that until we got our Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yeah.
I didn't even know we were nominated, that we had a Grammy
That's funny
nomination.
how that goes, yeah.
Yeah, where's my nomination plaque? Come on.
We need to get that for you.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back, and we're going to talk about After Bathing at Baxter's. I just wanted to set things up a little bit.
Well done.
This year, and it takes off, and then Surrealistic Pillow, and then this record, and all of a sudden, boom, it just blows the doors open.
Yeah.
There, we talked about most experimental, non-commercial LP. This record would only reach number 17 on the Billboard charts, and
but the term "only," I mean, today it's almost impossible to get on the charts.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure being Jefferson Airplane, helped out a lot as far as that goes.
Yeah, the train was moving. Yeah.
I looked at a Paul Kantner interview regarding this record, and he felt this is the high point of the creative freedom and sonic exploration for the group. And his quote is, "This was a no-holds-barred studio experience."
I'd find it hard to argue with him.
Yeah. And so a lot of that stuff, Jorma, being in the studio, I had heard that RCA, because you guys were like their darlings at the time, gave you unlimited studio time.
Right.
And that maybe you used it as much as you could for everything.
I think that's well put. And we were very fortunate because, we were working with the great producer Al Schmidt on this, and Al's sad to say Al has passed away because was a wonderful human being, and he'd be a lot of fun to have this conversation with. But anyway, Al produced all these, we could delve into his track record, and I'm sure you have all these like disparate groups from the 50s up to...
Let me jump in on you, Jorma, then.
Lay it on us.
With Al Schmidt, you have Al Schmidt, and his resume includes Frank Sinatra, Elvis Presley, Sam Cooke, Chet Baker, Jerry Mulligan. The Peter Gunn soundtrack that was Henry Mancini, I believe. And then also you got like Dwayne Eddy there. So jumping into Al Schmidt.
Yeah, that says it all, doesn't it?
He was the producer for RCA and Capitol Records.
Correct.
And so here's a guy that's done all pretty much like straight music.
Yeah.
You know, definitely not much acid rock in his repertoire at that point. Why did you guys grab Al Schmidt? And another point of it was, it seemed like he was a real ally with you guys.
Totally. And I don't, honestly, I don't know whether we grabbed him or whether he was assigned to us. But it was an amazing choice because Al's strength, looking back on it, was to work with all these disparate artists and to find out whatever is going to work with them for their project. And I think that he realized that, that he needed a loose rein with us. But he had a rein nonetheless. It was very subtle.
Yeah.
And I think he got great performance out of us. He mixed a great album. We're talking about Baxter's here. Mixed a fantastic album, and really rose to the occasion of working with somebody that was a little bit different from the great artists he'd worked with in the past.
Yep. And that's what is said, that he had a way with you guys where he realized the importance of the musicians.
Yeah.
And his role wasn't to tell you what to do, but to help communicate.
Right, and to get the most out of us, which he certainly did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, was he ever used again with Jefferson Airplane or anything else you
You
were
know,
involved in?
but again, this is probably something I should know, but I really don't. We'll have to fact check this.
All right. All right, Jorma.
Al Schmidt is there in the Hot Tuna world.
He is? Tell me.
First record.
Oh, he did that?
I believe so.
For some reason, that was. So Al Schmidt did the producer of the first record?
Well,
Or just.
he's in. You know something? We're gonna have to look this up.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
But he's involved, and and anything he was involved in always came up roses.
All right.
I'm getting a nod from my fact checker.
That is true.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, Al, like I said, he was, oh gosh, he's just such a great guy on so many levels. But in his professional world, like I said, he just got the best out of his artists.
He knew how to do that. Now, when you're recording this record after bathing at Baxter's, apparently you're touring a lot at the same time. And when you're coming in on a weekend or something to do some studio and going back out and all that kind of stuff. A lot of people have said how the Jefferson Airplane's live shows were different than those first two records when they saw you live.
Oh, sure.
And that this was a record that kind of brought the excitement that you guys were able to exhibit in live performance onto vinyl. And of course, Jorma, that's said with so many groups where people say, oh, the studio records just, like the Grateful Dead, for instance. People used to think the studio records just didn't do justice to the live performance of the material where they could go on more and more.
Yeah, studio art it's really a different animal. and I think on some levels the Baxter was able to capture some of that wild abandon, that the Airplane had at the time. And of course, when you're playing live, I mean, you're a performing artist. Every night is a different night. Actually, since we're going down memory lane here, I do remember an interesting night. So we the Airplane rented the house the Beatles had in L.A. Had a swimming pool, had an underground shooting gallery with a window into the pool. Nice. It was like Hollywood excess at its finest, and it's something that Paul and his side of the Airplane family thought would be a good idea, and it was a lot of fun. So anyway, we rented this house, and but we were also working gigs at the time. I think that's what triggered this memory thing with me. So I remember we had a show in Santa Barbara at the Earl Warren County Fairgrounds. Remember Earl Warren?
The name, was he like
he's a politician. I'd look him up sometime.
Like he was not a defense secretary.
No, I think he's a Supreme Court justice, wasn't he? Okay. Anyway, so we went up to Santa Barbara, played the gig, came back and found out that the late night Hollywood vampires had gotten in to the compound and were having a huge party at the Jefferson Airplane house. And one of the side effects of this is that there were crabs in every bed in the house.
Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy.
Yeah, take
You
the
leave
chicken.
the house for one night.
Take the chicken off, Mama. Daddy's coming home with the crabs. Yeah, there was that, and yeah, it was an interesting time to say the least. But anyhow, the other thing was I remember Al had a Buick Riviera. Remember Rivieras?
Yeah, Buick.
And he came. We had like a dinner party, and there was probably a lot of party favors going around and this and that. And I remember on the way out, Al, may he rest in peace, his time sense had been altered in some way. And so that as he was driving his Buick Riviera out through the electric gate, he thought he was going faster than he actually was, and the gate closed, and he got trapped in the gate. We had to open it. Good times.
Yeah. Wow. Now, back to something that when you mentioned that, I wanted to go back to this. We talked about Al Schmidt, and you said you weren't sure if he was maybe assigned to you by the label.
Right.
Is that how things would happen back then? It wasn't necessarily you grabbing the producer?
Oh, no. It was like, the Airplane was one of the bands in the forefront of that time that seized creative control on a lot of levels. Before that, you would have been assigned to produce. Like the Tommy Oliver, produced the first The Takes Off album. We didn't know Tommy Oliver. They said, you're making a record, and Tommy Oliver's producing it.
Was there anything like, what do you think of him, or you check him
No,
out?
they didn't care.
It was just boom.
Yeah, they didn't care what you thought.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So with Al Schmidt, so they might have recommended him, but you guys liked what he had done.
Well,
that you accepted.
Again, I don't have the facts to support this, but he was probably assigned, but we loved him.
Right.
And as a result, we used him, the Airplane used him a lot, as did Hot Tuna. In the beginning.
You mentioned that Beatles house that they had rented. Was this a gigantic mansion?
It was.
Thing? Like gigantic?
I mean,
Like
it had
Hollywood type thing?
Yeah, it had all kinds of complete suites in it,
And you had the electric gate, so even with the electric gate, the vampires jumped the gate and came into the...
I mean, somebody let them in, obviously. I don't think they jumped the gate, but I mean, who knows how it happened. Yeah. They rang the doorbell, somebody opened the door, they came in, I don't know.
Lord have mercy.
It was a simpler time.
Yeah. Okay. We also going to bring out this album cover to show the people here.
Let's have a look.
What we're going to talk about here is this is the record right here, After Bathing at Baxter's. And Jorma, I grabbed this out of I realize I've kept this in real good shape over the years.
Yeah, it is.
You could tell it's pre-original, no barcode on it or anything.
Yeah.
But a great cover that Jefferson Airplane has used in other things throughout the time. In fact, when I was referencing some things in the Tamarkin book, I found my all-access pass from the '89 reunion tour, which had this Airplane on the pass. So it's something they use. But
that's a Ron Cobb album.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you,
Yeah.
Jorma. This is the album work was done by Ron Cobb, who had worked with the LA Free Press.
Yeah, he's a political cartoonist.
Cartoonist.
Yeah.
And when I looked into him, while I only saw this as only LP artwork, he did work for like Star Wars and other like science fiction stuff. He was a heavy hitter.
We're lucky to get him to do this.
Yes. Again, is this something where? Yeah, it's got so many cool things with the skyline, San Francisco stuff. The Airplane is so cool.
The flying Victorian house.
You can't beat it.
Right.
Yeah, so many references. And the great Jefferson Airplane, name in the tail wing here. But so on a case like this, who brought Ron into the thing?
I have no idea.
Someone come and show you this, and you guys agree that it's a cool thing?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I really don't.
Okay.
I'm guessing one of the people. Maybe Paul was a free press. The answer is I don't know.
Yeah.
But great choice. And
Great choice.
cover.
Great album cover. It has a very cool inside, which is really kind of a far out thing because again, it's probably not a real commercial inside of a gatefold.
Yes, and the RCA wasn't happy about this either because
there you are.
Yeah, look at these. Yeah, I'm barely recognizable, Spencer. Yeah, who's that? Come on.
Yeah.
Is that Grace? I don't even know. No,
Yes.
there's Grace up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got the nun outfit on.
Isn't that
the
Marty,
zombie
maybe?
eyes? Nice work, Grace.
Yep.
Yeah.
So anyhow.
Oh, and this thing here, Spencer, wrapped in saran wrap. That's saran wrap. That's actual saran wrap.
And so was this?
Show the camera.
Yes. Was that done for the photo shoot, Jorma?
Yeah. They actually wrapped Spencer in saran wrap and took the picture.
Well, that was one way to keep them fresh.
Yeah.
You know.
You're right. Today they do it with AI, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Let me just show the viewers too, because this is a great little snippet picture here with Jorma right here. There he is. Anyhow, Jorma, very, very cool. And you know, when you talk about psychedelic, aside from the music, we're talking culture and artwork and
Absolutely,
stuff.
absolutely.
And this all was right in there. And I love the red, white, and blue, the stars.
Hey.
You know, this is an American band. There's no mistake in that.
No mistake in it.
And even though I always replace my records in these nice classical archival sleeves, I did save the original record sleeve, which is pretty bizarre to say the least.
Yeah, let me.
I'd say this is 60s material. You ever get a kick
Yeah,
out
definitely.
of this?
Yeah. Yeah, there's some crazy stuff there.
I
mean,
heard
it's
that, I
like-
heard that RCA took some
the
objection.
Here's the horse lips cannon.
Yep.
It pinch nose to operate snout. I mean, come on, you know.
Yes. So anyhow, they found that this was the record company had a little bit of question about this cover, the inside sleeve, for some strange reason, but due to artistic, that they let you guys do so much. You could do
Yeah,
it.
we were selling
This-
records, so it was,
This
you know.
this is a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, Ron Cobb album work. Okay.
Yep.
Yes. So anyhow, with the success of Surrealistic Pillow, you guys had RCA strongly behind you. They give you studio
Correct.
time that you could go in the studio and mess around and play around. You have new technology that 8-track, isn't that?
8-track.
This is the
Yeah, we
first
had
time
two
it's on-
8-track machines in
First
there,
time
yeah.
on 8-track.
Yeah.
So you have, and where the Surrealistic Pillow was a 3 weeks, I think, recording session.
I think it was less than that.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
This was months.
I think this dragged out about 6 months.
Yes. And so is that also part of the new thing, or was it just because you were coming back and forth from live into the studio? Live
Well,
into
there
the
was a little
studio?
bit of that, and you know, it's. I mean, whenever they said there's a recording session, I would pack up my stuff and go to LA and show up. I can't say because so many of the people involved here are no longer with us, but I can't go to LA right now because I'm going to Stinson Beach tomorrow or whatever. I don't know.
Right,
Hard
right.
to say.
All right. Well, we're going to jump into the record, but I do want to say a couple things that were noted is that the release of After Bathing at Baxter's changed the music scene from a pop rock to all of a sudden avant-garde, progressive rock
Right.
being acceptable.
Yeah.
People, instead of looking for that AM shiny 3-minute hit, where all of a sudden ears were open to a 5-minute song
Yeah.
that was something that people would not enjoy on typically on a record or maybe not expect. But it's interesting on this record. Reviewers and fans, some call it their favorite Jefferson Airplane record, most ambitious, sonically, experimental, really going for it. And other people that were looking for a Surrealistic Pillow record were
Repulsed by it.
disappointed.
Maybe even repulsed.
Maybe even. I wasn't going to use that word, but yeah, it's a big difference.
Yeah.
And so this really, in 1967, really changed a lot of things in the music world.
Right.
Not only how things were done, but culturally things going on. And you guys really blew open the whole door that something didn't have to be a 3-minute song to get.
I think
played on radio, all
audiences
that
in
kind of
general
stuff.
back then, were open to, new artistic experiences in a lot of levels. I mean, these things happen in waves,
Yes.
obviously. Yeah.
But 1967 not only sees the group also growing, all of you guys, as far as the writing, getting a lot more deeper, heavier stuff, the instrumentation. One thing we'll notice on this record, and we're going to jump into it, I promise, in just a second here, but you know, I've been listening to a lot over the last week, prepping for today's show, and all of a sudden your guitar playing is front and center. And it's not just a little snippet here at the end of a song or anything. It's some extended solo work.
Right.
And God, you're one of the greatest guitar players, rock guitar players of all time, and it certainly shows on this record with the different kinds of tones and you know influences that you're exhibiting and you're playing. And so this record really has a lot of cultural significance, and also for the group itself, and seeing you guys really exploring, really kind of like getting, like that thing where Paul said, no holes barred. You really all were trying all different kinds of things.
So, you know, as a lead guitar player in a band, you know, people occasionally say, well, how come you don't play like you did with Jefferson Airplane? And the answer is, because I'm not playing with Jefferson Airplane. I mean, you know, that's
a good answer.
You know, the landscape dictates the garden tools that are necessary, you know. And, you know, I was, that's a good metaphor. Let's not forget
I like
that
that.
one. Yeah.
I like that. Hey, right
yeah,
there,
I mean, so many great songs and stuff like that. And again, you know, nobody ever told any of us what to play, you know. And, you know, as a lead guitar player, you know, I've said this in our conversations before, and I've said it in interviews the other day. The stuff that I was able to develop at that time, because this was all new for me, you know, was a direct result of the incredible foundation that Jack, Spencer, and Paul laid down, and the songs too, of course. I mean, it's a perfect storm for that kind of creativity, and you know, and you know, with Hot Tuna, for example. Because Hot Tuna, for the most part, has been a three-piece band. There's not as much creative freedom, which is not to say that we weren't creatively free in Hot Tuna also.
Just different ways.
But it's a different animal. It's a really different animal.
Yeah.
And you know, to having those great songs that we were, you know, offered in order to come up with creative stuff, boy, you just can't beat that.
No. Well, we're going to play one of the songs you remember from the. In fact, we're going to play the first song off of the record, and this is that song, not from the Crown of Creation record, but from the After Bathing at Baxter's, called "The Ballad of You and Me and Punil."
Ooh.
And I'm going to turn it up here in a second, but I'm going to kick this in and let it go as a little while. But right from the get-go, you see that this is a different Jefferson Airplane. This is a strong. Let me throw this in for our people.
Throw it in there.
Put it in there.
And you live very high.
really hate to cut this before Jack's great bass solo. So don't take it personal, Jack, if you're watching, because that comes another couple minutes into the song here, and I know we're at limited time, but that is again one of the great things about this record. Aside from your letting your freak flag fly and really improvise, so much improvisational guitar work, Jorma, that's unbelievable. Jack all of a sudden comes up in the mix, and this is really the first song I can think of where you hear him kick into that bass guitar solo sound that Jack has become famous for, and that you still feature him when the Hot Tuna plays, and put in a Jack Cassidy solo. Was this something unusual at the time in rock music for a bass player to get a solo like that?
I don't, something, that's a historical question that I'm not really qualified to answer, but, just to back up a little bit, and I'll try to get back into that for a sec. So part of the song is in fives, and how, depending how you want to parse this, somebody says, what's not really fives, the phrases are threes and twos. And that was something that all that kind of stuff. Paul was big on that at the time, and it was a little bit different. It's so easy to flow in, in fours because we do it all the time, and even in 6/8 for that matter. But all of a sudden, Paul's decided, okay, now we're going to be whatever he considered it, avant-garde, whatever, and we're going to do this in five. And it was like, wow, what?
That is avant-garde. That is, especially when you're coming from 4/4, all that stuff.
So there's a lot of stuff going on in this song here, and
this song here has some of the things that really are at the core of what made the Jefferson Airplane such a great song, such a great band.
Yeah.
Right from the beginning, when the vocals come in, and indeed, when I was talking to you about, some people loved the record and some people didn't. There are comments where people say that this album suffered from Marty Balin deficiency. Marty only wrote one song on the record,
right?
And you have Paul that has written 6 of the 11 songs.
Sure. And I get that, and I guess on some levels that's a valid comment, but that's not the way the band was evolving in that time. Now check the vocal harmonies out here. These are not like traditional pop vocal harmonies. They're not even close to it.
Right.
I mean, harmony's harmony,
Yep.
But the way that Paul orchestrated the harmonies and this kind of stuff, this is not a coming back to me moment. One of Marty's great songs.
Right. Yep.
And that's just how it was. And so I wasn't involved in the writing of most of these songs, so I can't say what went on. Was Party left out? Was he there? Because I just don't know. But the way the band was evolving at that time, Paul and Grace were spreading their wings, and they were very big wings at the time.
Yeah, the band, everything was growing.
It was,
But even though Marty's only on one song as a co-writer, actually, the young girl with Paul, his vocals are there and everything.
Oh, absolutely. No question about it.
That to me is like when you talk about the Jefferson Airplane sound, that you had three great vocalists.
Agreed. 3 lead vocalists.
3 lead vocalists.
Yeah.
So whether it would be like,
and it's not a Three Dog Night moment either.
No, it sure isn't.
Which is not to be critical of that. It's not what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying.
I know you do.
But that's a powerful thing. Not only the female vocal of Grace, which was absent from a lot of groups at that point, not having a lead female singer with the 2 male singers, But really, the Jefferson Airplane having Paul and Marty and Grace on the vocals, and whether it be a Paul song, a Marty song, or a Grace song, that it's all there. In fact, I don't want to jump the gun, but we're going to talk about one of your songs on this album. And when we go to that song, again, I'm talking about the castle last. And even though it's you writing it and composing and singing it, you have Marty and Paul and Grace doing like some background stuff there.
Yeah.
So that to me is like with the Jefferson Airplane sound, when you hear that trio of vocalists, all in supporting roles of each other, whether you had Marty taking the lead or Paul taking the lead, all 3 were there. And like you say, it's not like a doo-wop kind of harmony thing. It's like it's very strong.
It was an equal opportunity band in terms of the vocalists stepping out.
All right, Jorma. And once again to mention the sound on that first song there, the guitar is up there, Jack's bass solo, all things that really were right from the first song, a sign of a new approach, the Jefferson Airplane sound.
Right, and it was capturing the way we were evolving as a live band. I mean, the two things were intertwined, because I'm sure we discovered stuff in the studio that, wow, we can do this live or whatever, you know.
Right.
But the two things are concomitant, so to speak.
Yeah, they worked off each other real well. Now the moving ahead to the second song on this record.
Ooh.
It's called "A Small Package of Value Will Come to You Shortly." What a title! What a title! Now the song itself sounds like something from Frank Zappa's Mothers of Invention or something.
Right.
It was so bizarre, and it's just a little snippet. I think it's under 2 minutes, like maybe a minute and
Yeah,
a half or something like that. And it's put in there. But to even choose something like that, this is a concept record. You could see it's not thought of the one song following the next. It's not just singles put together on a record. This is like a thought process into how these songs work together.
So Spencer and Grace were huge Frank Zappa fans, and I'm sure, you know, Grace is 3,000 miles away and Spencer is no longer with us, so we can't have this conversation at this moment. But this, in my opinion, it was inspired by the fact that, you know, on Frank's record, he put lots of stuff like that on his records.
Oh, yeah. Endings, beginnings, all that stuff. Jorma, does that thing mean anything? What was the small package of value that was going to be arriving shortly?
I don't know. Somebody's saying, could it be a Chinese fortune cookie? I mean, I
never thought about that.
Let's just think about our favorite beat scenarios. You know, it was a cosmic goof.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's nice because it could make you think about all kinds of stuff.
Right.
And that's a pretty neat thing about it. So, okay, now listen, as I asked you about that, a small package, and if it has any meaning, one thing I forgot to talk about at the beginning when we were talking about After Bathing at Baxter's, it was interesting to, what does that mean, After Bathing at Baxter's?
So, Bill Thompson, who was our de facto manager for a number of years, had this friend named Gary Blackman. And Gary Blackman was an extremely eccentric guy. And, you know, he would write these weird poems that just meant nothing to anybody but him. And that's where After Bathing at Baxter's came. It was just some utter non sequitur thing that in that moment made sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure you must be aware of this, but a lot of people talk about After Bathing at Baxter's was LSD related, like a sign for that. Have you tripped or you're going to trip? So the After Bathing at Baxter's kind of became.
That might have been that way for some people, but I'm going to call bullshit on that one because I remember there was that thing about Jefferson Airplane was another name for a roach clip. Remember that? What that was out there? Complete bullshit.
Okay. All right. Well.
Remember roach clips?
Yes, I do. In fact, I have my Jimmy Carter roach clip, which was like a peanut with the clip on it. You know.
I think I remember they used to have. Remember the Ankh symbol? Remember the Ankh roach clip? It opened up.
Yeah.
I wonder.
You still got one of those?
We don't have the Ankh in the gallery. No, we don't.
That would be a collector's item.
It would be. It would be a real collector's item.
Yeah.
Wow. Anyhow, yeah.
We'll have to search them out. So anyhow, very, very cool. Very, very cool. Let's go to the third song. Now, I want to ask my producer here about our time. We got about 5 minutes left. We just touched on the album. I can see.
Oh, we're going for a second. We're doing a follow-up,
Absolutely, and before we close out the show today, but there's just so much here. And like I told you, Jorma, it's really interesting because, you know, I always loved your music, and Jefferson Airplane was probably more high school and early college a favorite band of mine, maybe even before the Grateful Dead, you know. And this album is overlooked. It really, when I went and re-listened to it again, the impact on it hit me a lot heavier. And I talked to our friend Munch about this as well, and he said the same thing. You know, that this album was a real knock the door down.
So I think I think this album is one of those records that requires you to sit down and listen to the record.
Yes.
This is not background music, and this is not to
Right.
to denigrate any other form of music.
Right.
This is a listener's album, and it takes time to listen to it.
Yep.
And you really need to listen to it in its entirety to grok what's going on.
Yep.
Get that, grok?
Yep.
I know you did. I know you did. Yeah. So it requires some serious, artistic and emotional expenditure to put yourself in the place to listen to it.
Right.
And and to be honest with you, I mean, these days, who's got the time to sit down and do that?
Well, that's the thing that's too bad about that, because yes, in a simpler and easier time, people
Right.
had the time to do that, light the candle, put on the incense, and sit in front of that stereo
Right.
and get blasted.
Yeah,
by
roll
the-
up a bone
after bathing at Baxter's, because really, like I say, even just what we've talked about already with the opening song,
Yeah.
and then going into the kind of like Frank Zappa-ish thing, and then we're going to talk about the Young Girl Sunday Blues,
Sure.
the third song on the record, but it isn't like I mentioned earlier, a bunch of 45s put together. This is really a thought out
Right.
album that delivers, and different tempos and feelings and all that stuff comes to the music. And when you talk about it is a lot of heavy and weighty lyrics, like the two Gray songs,
Yeah.
like the Two Heads and the Rejoice, the lyrics in there and stuff. And yeah, this isn't stuff you could just hum in your car while you're going along. You had to sit and listen to
Right.
it, because I know she loved some of the writers, and James Joyce has been mentioned as far as
Many times,
influences on her. But when you listen to like Two Heads, for instance, there's so much in there. And if you were just listening to it thinking like White Rabbit or Somebody to Love, it's not. There's every single song, every stanza has things metaphorically you could take from it.
Yeah.
Like I say, deep, heady stuff.
That's some heavy writing, yeah.
Yeah, and it really is. And
And I think it illustrates the fact. I mean, we're just talking about the Airplane, and I'm not on any level being critical of anybody's approach to art in general. But again, I don't think that as a band, everybody likes to be commercially successful, and I don't think we set out to fuck the establishment. I don't care if it's commercially successful, because as professional musicians, you want to be successful. But there was never any thought about sacrificing, artistic integrity, as opposed to,
right.
You know what I mean?
And Jack has mentioned in an interview that you guys were given a lot of freedoms, and you took advantage of them as far as what you could do in the studio, and with your music and lyrics and all that kind of stuff, and a whole different way of looking at things, recording, all that kind of stuff taking place. And so I know we're getting down on this, and I was going to talk about the third song, Young Girl Sunday Blues with Marty, but maybe I'll hold off on that for Volume 2, because before we get going here.
Yeah, because that could be a conversation right there.
Right there, right. And before we leave here, I want to talk to you about, because here we are in March, but soon you and I will be hitting the road and on the bus heading out toward Austin, Texas, to begin our 15 city.
Hitting the bus, hitting the road, brother.
Hitting the road tour. And we're calling this the last bus tour for 2026 at least, and who knows? But anyhow, we have this beautiful shirt that we've put out just for this occasion. I hope you can see it okay there on the camera, and this is pretty impressive too. Boy, this shirt is on the back, has all the different venues listed. Very cool artwork by our dear friend Kevin Morgan once again, and. Jorma, I got to tell you, I'm just thrilled to be part of your
feelings mutual, brother.
Your music, and real special to be on this last bus tour with you. I'm so looking forward to it. We'll be heading out here soon. But it brought to mind a question that someone asked me: if this was the last bus tour, what was your first tour with a tour bus?
So
the big things they are.
The Airplane, back in the day, back in the 60s through the 70s when we quit touring, never had a bus. Country bands had buses back then. Rock bands that I knew never had them. So I remember for the airplane reunion tour, I forget what the first gig was. Was it Philly or something like that? Remember, Uncle Willie had a friend that had a bus, and it was an old Eagle. Remember Eagles?
Oh, yeah.
It was an old Eagle, and he drove us to meet the airplane gang, whatever. Somebody out there knows. I think it was Philly, but I can't remember. And so that was really, when I hung out with the guys of the band, occasionally we'd go to a gig, and like I said, one of their friends had a bus. We'd get on a bus, but to actually do a bus tour, the way we think about it today, it's just,
like 1989 with the reunion tour is when they're really starting with the tour buses.
yeah.
If I remember right, that didn't like Paul have his own bus?
Marty had his own bus.
Marty had his own bus. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Paul and Grayson and I, and Vanessa, and our bull terrier Marlowe.
God rest that bull terrier.
What a great dog he was.
Yeah. So prior to that, it was hopping in vans and rental cars.
No, they didn't
whatever.
have vans back then. Vans didn't exist.
So you just big cars.
Yeah.
Probably a Riviera.
No.
Buick Riviera had a big trunk.
I was a caddy man.
Oh, caddy.
I like that, man. Four-door caddy.
Caddy for Big Daddy.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
Sitting back.
You can't beat that.
Feeling pretty damn good about yourself.
Yeah. Well, you've come a long way.
Yeah.
And this bus tour is going to be a lot of fun.
Right. And so we don't want people to think we're not going to tour and play music anymore, but we're probably not going to do
Well, Jorma, you're
geographic gallivanting like that.
Yes, well, you've had a tour bus schedule and a tour schedule that you've maintained over the decades.
Yeah.
That I remember talking to our good friend Michael Falzarano one day, and of course he's younger than you also.
Yeah.
And he says,
everybody's younger
He
than
says,
me.
just looking at Jorma's tour schedule, I get tired because you're working it so hard, and a tour bus sure is crucial, making it easier on you.
Well, when you have a tour bus, you got to work that hard to pay for it.
Aha, I see that. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up and say goodbye to everybody out there. Be well, stay well out there. Spring is here.
We've got so much left to say, but
I know. Well, you know what? We're going to have to come in back, and
we will.
We definitely will have an episode 2 for this After Bathing at Baxter's episode. We thank you for tuning in, and here's some music for you on the way out.
Walking down that lonesome road set my soul on